Happy Mondays. Welcome along to tonight's Cardiff City phone-in. As we look forward towards life in League One, Cardiff City World will, of course, continue with Bluebirds content 7 days a week by fans, for fans, available on YouTube and podcast platforms everywhere via TalkSport, Fan Network, including The Breakdown, the 1927 podcast, and the new series Cardiff City. The Rebuild, episode 3, is out this week. And on the panel tonight, I'm delighted to say, making his debut, Mr. Daniel Pritchard, top right. Evening, Dan.
Evening, mate. How are you? You're good?
Good to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Mark B, all connected via string tonight, so we should be okay, Mark. Nice to have you on.
Yeah. Fingers crossed we have no IT issues. If it is, I'll blame somebody else.
Absolutely. And in that fabulous Cardiff City shirt that everybody wants, which I used to have, and I don't know where it's gone, Mr. Steve Thomas. Hi, Steve.
Good evening, Steve. How are you?
All good, thanks. Yeah, life could be a little bit better, but let's try and keep it a little bit bright tonight. Thank you very much for coming on an hour later than advertised due to a few tech issues. And big thanks to Cy for sorting things out as well. Let's start at the stadium on Saturday then, and then we'll gradually plough our way through into the whys, whens, and wherefores. Cardiff versus the Baggies, West Bromwich Albion. I don't take any pleasure in saying that I forecast the 0-0 scoreline last week on the show, but I did. But how the hell was that game a no-score draw? Dan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, talking about the game, I think we had like that 4 chances where like it just pinged like pinball back and forth. It was ridiculous. I think a lot of us in the Canton stand were on the edge of our seats, and I think my mate next to me thought he was going to have a heart attack at one point. I honestly thought we were going to score, but you know, that's Cardiff. It just didn't go to the plan that we thought it was going to go, to be honest.
Yeah. The ball didn't fall our way, but I will say, Mark, that West Brom had a few chances as well, didn't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I noticed Horvath got, I think, a 9 rating somewhere. I think that's probably he'll probably frame that, won't he? Because I don't think he'll score much. I mean, to be fair, he's had a couple of games where, as long as they're pinging shots at him, he'll tip around the post. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, they were very close to scoring. I was waiting for it, really. It had sort of 1-0 West Brom written all over it with the chances that Daniel's just described. And it wasn't just 4 chances. I think there was 3 chances in each of those 4 things. So I didn't check what our XG was. It's got to have been the highest we've had and not actually scored a goal. But it's just how the season has gone, isn't it? I've seen a video of the one that was right at our end. Keeper saves it with his heel. We hit the post. Defender gets in the way of one. You know,
it won't be going, was it?
No, chips are down.
Yeah, even if we'd have been playing to now. But I don't know what you thought about the actual game, Steve. I thought the tempo was a lot better, for sure. And the intensity was a lot better as well, even though, you know, and we created some chances. So even though Rambo and Gunter and the boys have only been in for a few games, there was definitely a marked improvement. Know what you thought, Steve?
I'd agree 100%. Again, I just come back to the chances first of all. I mean, the one where it's pinging around that Daniel just mentioned was amazing how we didn't score. And the chance that West Brom had when they hit the post on the right-hand side, it ran right along the line and then wide of the post the other side. It's amazing there weren't any goals in the game. But yes, the last couple of games against Oxford, they had the one shot and it's a worldie. And then on Saturday, yeah, we looked so much better organised. I've said on it here before, what's absolutely baffling to me, and it must be even more baffling to the players, is when Rizzo was making those substitutions, he's like putting a forward on and taking off a centre back. How on earth can the players work out what position they were playing in? We have looked so much better organised the last couple of games, and it was a show. For a 0-0, it was a very exciting 0-0 for the neutral on Saturday. Of course, none of us are neutral. All we wanted was a goal to go in off somebody's backside so we win 1-0, and then the hope would carry on to Norwich next Saturday. But it wasn't to be, and we got to look forward to next season.
You know, and ironically as well, I said to Mark off air just before we came on, Bristol City are on the box tonight playing Leeds. And as soon as I didn't realise there was a game on tonight. And as soon as I saw that, it took me all the way back to Ashton Gate, where we absolutely played them off the park. For God, I mean, you guys were probably up there. I only watched it on the telly, but played them off the park. And then Mr. Rizza decides to change the formation and go a bit defensive. And we end up drawing a game that we should have really had 3 points with. You know,
say that about so many games this season, Steve. we ended up drawing a game we should have lost. Is it 24 points we've lost from in winning positions this season? I remember particularly, Bristol City. I particularly remember Stoke away. Looking at my watch with the 7 added minutes, going 6 minutes, stupidly give away a free kick. We had far too high a line. Ball gets played in. Jack Annock comes out, misses his punch, headed in by a player who scored earlier in the game and scored an own goal for us. So there was so many games where it was there for the killing, and for whatever reason we went more defensive, and that just clearly didn't work. I mean, you know, fool me once, shame on me. Shame on you, rather. Fool me twice, shame on you. The amount of times he was making those changes and they weren't working. But hey, what do we know?
Yeah, we're only clueless fans, Steve. But we'll come back to that in just a sec. What did you think about the starting lineup on Saturday, Dan? Were you happy with what and the subs and stuff, or did you have any thoughts as the game panned out? I was surprised BJ didn't come on. I don't know what you thought, but.
To be honest with you, I thought like the lineup looked well. You know, I thought, right, we've had those few days now with Ramsey where we could have really had those practices and getting that game plan in ready. But to be honest, I felt like as soon as we played, nothing was going our way, because I think we had that offside goal. I think I look back at it, I don't even think it was an offside goal. But no, I think the tempo was good. You could see the direction that they were trying to go, this fast tempo, and it was brilliant. But it's just like a final third, which we always seem to lack. But yeah, it was very frustrating watching it from the stands. I know that for sure. But,
absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what you thought, Mark. Were you happy? I was surprised to see Willock start, and he started in for 2 games, which was a bit baffling to me because he hadn't really featured at all, has he, this year? But what did you think yourself, Mark, with the starting lineup?
I think he's got to the point. I think we got to the point with the whole squad where I was quite worried about what which 11 players were going to be fit enough to start. But yeah, Willock for me. We just always look imbalanced. You've got Kean Ashford on one wing, who's finding space. Every time we look at Willock's drifting in mid, or almost in field. He offers very little width, and we always seem to take an absolute age to get the ball from one wing to another. And so there is space there if you do it quickly. We either are coached not to do it quickly, or we're just not good enough to do it quickly. So. Yeah, there was Alves. I'd have played Alves ahead of Willock, but maybe he's thinking, well, I'll bring him on a bit later with an hour gone and use the pace a little bit later on. But we just the whole scene. We're bottom of the league. The whole every setup, whichever way you look at it, there's mistakes in the back. We lack that. I'm going to say it. We lack Abu Adams in midfield, the workhorse that we thought was not good enough to be. Okay, I know he was injured, but he's going to be playing championship football next year. We're not, and there's way too many players in those lower 5 or 6 teams. Everybody's listing them on social media. I don't need to do it here, but there's a whole number of players that we've let go that are all going to be playing championship football, and we're going to be Port Vale away.
Yeah, I agree with what you say there, Mark. I tell you what I popped down here, thinking about the game yesterday, or a half an hour to spare. There still seems to be a bit of a reluctance from people to put a foot in midfield, and as you mentioned there, Mark, we're just lacking those battlers. I think I don't know what you think, Steve, but I think personally our team's a little bit too nice, for want of a better word. We need a couple of niggly players in midfield just to put a foot in and put their stamp on the game.
Yeah, it seemed to me throughout actually that when we started off with the 1 win and 1 point and 1 goal from the first 5 games, that we didn't really, looking at the squad, have the players for a relegation battle where they got to pull their sleeves up and get stuck in. We got a lot of very good players. Don't get me wrong. As Rambo said, we probably got at least a mid-table squad there, but we hadn't got the players who, as you say, to get stuck in midfield. In fact, I don't think we've really had that sort of player since Gunnarsson went.
No, you're right there. And we miss his long throw as well. Just little things like that, a little thing like a long throw, just to lob the ball in the box. Okay, I know O'Dowda, I think Tanner, but nowhere near the strength of Gunnarsson and Bobby Woodruff back in for our more mature members back in the olden days. Love to know your thoughts anyway. I can see a pile of comments coming in already. Let us know what you thought about Saturday. Let us know what you're thinking. We're going to tackle issues like on Saturday, which was ironic, and I didn't realise until I saw the pictures that it was the Player of the Year awards at the Cardiff City Stadium. We probably could have done with them on a better what's the word I'm looking for here? On a better day, then let's put it that way. For want of a better
not
word.
having them at all, really, is the honest answer.
It might have been better, actually, Mark. And I don't know what you all thought. Feel free to chip in here, but I saw some pictures, and obviously the players looked like they were enjoying themselves. And I don't know, it just seemed a bit. There's a bit of imbalance there after you've been relegated.
Let me say, I did mention that on social media, and Donna's been on here, and she made a really good point, and that is. But hang on a minute, I think there was some female awards as well planned for that night, and so if that's the case, then why wouldn't you carry on? I don't know whether they did do them, because I know they played in the cup final as well the day after, but I just think it didn't fit right with me. Put it that way. I just felt it was uncomfortable. Dalman wasn't there. I don't think that's acceptable. I know we're all a bit angry, but if the board are not going to turn up or are not available, why are they not available? Because that's a date that goes in the diary. It's always the last home game of the season. That date's been known a long time. Why isn't he available?
No, that's a good point, that is. And what do we think of the Player of the Year award, Dan, which was awarded? The fans voted for Callum Robinson.
I thought Andy would have been the player of the season, to be honest. I spoke to Jamie Anderson. We spoke about this early on, and we said, Andy's put a shift in the whole season, especially, with his brother and that. The way he came on after his brother passed away. He's put in a really good shift this year, and I honestly thought he deserved to win it,
Yeah. What were your feelings, Steve, on the Player of the Year? I think Rinamoto had Players Player, didn't he?
He did.
Player.
I agree with Daniel. I voted Rhino. I thought he played out of position, and as Daniel also said, he played on really well against the backdrop of the tragedy of losing his brother. And I thought on Saturday again, he was the one finding the pockets of space. He was the one who they were playing the ball to. Give me the ball. He was so basically, give me the ball, give me the ball. So many times our players are standing there with the ball, looking around for somebody to pass to, and there is literally nobody making a run. Whereas Rhino was actually getting in the space. If a team's pressing you, okay, I've only watched football 50 plus years, so what do I know? Coming back to the clueless fans again. But when you've got a team pressing you, you need to get players in the gap between the two banks of four to play the ball to them. And Rhino was doing that. I saw on Saturday, he was there. Look at me. Look at me. I've got no player within 10 yards of me. And yet he wasn't getting the ball. It's just there's got to be a whole change of mindset. Yeah, so back to the question. Yeah, I voted Rhino. I thought he deserved it. This time last year, he was sitting on the bench at Rotherham as they were getting relegated, not getting a game. He came into us. He's been played out of position. He's really taken one for the team this season. Fair play to Callum Robinson. Well done, everybody who voted for him. But I voted Rhino, and I thought he deserved it.
Good point. Some great comments coming in. I'll just mention a few. Lee Griffiths, disappointed boys. I don't blame the players. They've been poorly managed from the top for years. Time for things to change. Complete overhaul needed. And coincidentally, Mark mentioned that Dalman wasn't there on Saturday at the Players Player, but Ken Chu was. And in his speech, and I'll quote, he says, "Work starts tomorrow." Well, just to bounce the ball back in his court, surely the work should have been started already. Probably should have been started weeks and weeks ago, to be honest. I mean, we could all see what was going on. And I find that just those 3 words, work starts tomorrow. I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know where they're going with that, Steve.
Did he mean that this work starts to get out of League One? Because we didn't actually definitely know we were in League One. Just playing devil's advocate for a moment. I agree with what you're saying. But I think I'd like to go back and say, I remember being there 40 years ago next week when we lost 2-1 at Plough Lane and we got relegated out of this level in 1985. And I wondered how long it will be before we were back. I didn't think it would be 18 years later. I really hope it don't take 18 years to get back this time, because I might not be able to go to games then.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. What did you think about Mr. Chu's words there, Dan? Anything, just that works?
I think they were like well rehearsed, to be honest with you, because we're looking at it, right. If we were going to put the money in, because a lot of people have been saying, right, no financial fair play, we can pump all the money in the world, but if he's not pumping in the right money, or people are not doing the right jobs within the club, how are we going to do this to League One? And my worry, and a lot of other fans worrying about, is that could we go down to League Two? Do you know what I mean? Because I think Omarizza should have been gone Boxing Day. That's my personal opinion. I think we had loads of Mark Harris. I would personally like Nathan Jones, Welsh boy from the Ronda. And I honestly think there should have been a lot more behind the scenes that I needed to be working on, because as fans, the diehard ones that travel all up and down the country, we don't deserve this. Do you know what I mean?
I think the thing about it is, Mark, is you probably read stories like I have that, I think, and whether this is people trying to outscore others, but Dalman and Chu wanted to change the manager and allegedly had people lined up. But Mr. Tan vetoed that. So, and you got other people saying other things. It's very hard to know what the heck's going on, Mark, isn't it?
It is. I agree with Daniel. I think Rizza should have gone on Boxing Day. I was there at Oxford. Dreadful performance. Players bottling out as well. I'm going to name them. I do normally. I will carry on. El Ghazi totally bottled a 1-on-1 with the keeper that day.
Yeah.
The writing was on the wall, but. The problem with what you said about the board is that if they're making recommendations to Vincent Tan of what to do, and Vincent Tan is ignoring those and the club's going down, I kind of feel like they lose credibility if they're just going to sit in those jobs, because I think they're all benefiting, right? They're all benefiting from Cardiff City. Dalman's definitely benefiting on the interest rates he's charging on his loans. Chu's not going to choose an employee of Vincent Tan. That's why he's there. Right, so he's not going to say anything. And, Steve Borley, he's a diehard Cardiff City fan, right? So that he's definitely got that in his favour. But he works for an engineering company, and his engineering company get a lot of deals out of it. I'm not saying he's not pumped money in. I'm sure he has. But he's also benefiting. So they're all sat there, in my view, benefiting from Cardiff City, and Vincent Tan's making bad decisions. So why aren't they moving? Why aren't they changing? How can you sit there as a boss on a board and say you're making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, but they all stay? Why? Why do they stay?
It doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And the bloke, I've read that letter just before we came on. I read the letter that's been published in the local media. Vincent Tan's not going to read that. Why is he going to read that? Chu's not going to show it to him. But it says he's been twice in 6 years.
Yeah,
the owner, and he's making all the decisions. I'd also question, how does Dalman even have an office there? Because Chu and Dalman are both London based. They're just, the whole thing lacks direction. There's no rudder. It's just an utter mess. And when Dalman doesn't even bother to turn up to the players' dinner, it's just treating us with utter contempt, really. Because like idiots, I'll put my hand up. Am I going to buy a season ticket? Yeah, of course I am. Because what else am I going to do on a Saturday afternoon?
I'd agree with you. I'm going to buy my season ticket again. Of course, being over 60 now, I get it at reduced rates, so that's an absolute bonus. But,
it's a total lack of respect by the board towards its patrons, which are us the fans, isn't it? Really, I just want to mention.
Totally.
Yeah, I just want to mention Nigel. Good news, boys. He says the season's almost over. Bad news. I have very little hope or trust that Vinton Tan will make sweeping changes, even though it's blindingly obvious everything must change. I just want to quickly go back to the awards as well on Saturday, and I thought a very passionate speech by Aaron Ramsey. I'll just read a couple of lines for those of you that haven't seen it. First of all, I just want to say thanks to everyone. Your support is appreciated from all the players and the staff. Without you guys, it's not possible. He was addressing the supporters who would obviously pay to attend there. It's been very disappointing for us. We have to own up for that. We haven't been good enough throughout the season, but credit to you guys, the fans who've stuck by us, showed us what a great club this is and how united this club can be. With the way the fans have been, especially the last few games, it's been incredible. And that's the Cardiff that I knew and grew up with. We need this if we're going to get out of this. I see an opportunity now to bounce back from this. In order for that to happen, everyone in this room, players, the staff, the fans, the sponsors have to come together. I thought that was a fantastic speech, Dan. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I think I talk about it all the time. It's a structure that we need from the bottom to the top. We just need everybody to be singing on the same hymn sheet. That's all we need. We need everyone. We need the board to be closer with the fans and everyone working together, not in these little groups. You know, I just feel like I'm a million miles away. Like, yes, like Saturday, I felt like I just lost a loved one. Do you know what I mean? The upset, like you've seen so many fans were distraught, sitting in the stands with their hands in their heads. It was just really upsetting to see, and especially with me, because my old man's in a wheelchair. So basically, for me and him, that was something we could do together, and something that I really enjoy now. It's heartbreaking to see, but I really think what Ramsey's trying to say nicely. I think we all just need to be working together, not them and us. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, you're right, Dan. Steve, are we all surprised that there's been, what are we now, 48 hours on from the game on Saturday? Are we all surprised there's been no club statement whatsoever about our relegation to League One?
No, it's disappointing, but not surprising after what's happened before. Can I come back to just to add to what Daniel said as well about that speech? Yeah, totally impassioned. And actually, I think it's right, because if we do pull together the squad we've got, I mean, okay, there's players in there with relegation clauses in there. The squad we've got, we should have a chance next season. The two big money teams in Birmingham and Wrexham have left League One now. So it's kind of much of a muchness. When I was in London for the QPR game, Lincoln were playing at Charlton. There were some Lincoln fans on my train back, and they said their team cost them £5 million. Yet they're in the middle of the table in League One at a really good season. So it is possible, but we've got to make sure we go in the right direction. We've got to get the right people in. I think, to come back to the question you asked me there, Steve, I'd expect a statement possibly after the Norwich game next Saturday.
Good point. What are your thoughts on that, Mark? Were you expecting something to?
No, because communication is poor. You know, I think everything that's said by the club has got to be ratified by Vincent Tan. So but I wouldn't be surprised when it comes to making the statement. It probably comes from Steve Borley, because they always seem to chuck him forward whenever it's rubbish and there's a negative thing to do. They say, "Well, send it to the local guy." So it wouldn't surprise me if Steve Borley's the one that comes out and said something. But no, not a surprise. If they're not going to come to games, then why are they going to communicate with us? It's been like this for years. What are they going to say? What are they going to say? Can't say sorry because it's their mistake. 3 managers this year. That's a record for us, isn't it? You know. And the last time I was, we were on, we were talking. I think you asked me the question: do you think he'll do it? And I said, yeah. I think Vincent Tan's got one panic in him, and he did. But he left it too late. He should have given Ramsey the job with 12 matches to go. We'd still be in the division if he had done. I think, based on those 2 performances. But it's just knee-jerk reaction. So no surprise to your question. No surprise they haven't said anything. And if they do, I think it'll come later, and it'll be, I don't know. I don't even think I'll bother to read it.
Clive Jones, evening, Clive. Thanks for all the comments, by the way. Keep them coming in. Whatever you're thinking, pop them down there in words so we can read a few out. Totally baffled, boys. For weeks, on how why Joe Bagan wasn't played at left back and Callum O'Dowda pushed further forward. Hugh Nichols watching BBC Wales News earlier, boys, depressing. Watching Wrexham and City, what a difference between the two clubs. And I mentioned another club as well. I think Nigel posted this somewhere this morning. Carlisle United relegated from League Two straight away. They're on their website to their fans, saying things like, "We're deeply sorry. It's a painful day for everyone connected to the club. Frustration and anger across the fan base is fully shared by us. As owners, we take responsibility. We're committed to correcting what's gone wrong." You know, that's a proper football club there, isn't it? That's a proper football club, you know, with structure and people in the right places making the right comments.
I don't know if it's true, but I have read that they drop into the same division as Truro, which means Truro have got to go to Carlisle.
Oh, God. Better leave now then.
Love to see how many people make that trip.
Yeah.
8-hour trip, isn't it? 8-hour round trip. I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. Just quickly, I know lots of you. I think you all travel a lot away. Are you all going? I had a message off Viv earlier that over 1,000 are making the trip, and I did it a few years back when I was with Real to Norwich. We actually drove up, which was a bit of a nightmare day. But are you all going to Norwich on the weekend if you can make it?
I'm going to Norwich on Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm traveling from Neath, so I've got to catch the last train Friday night, stay in my mates till 3 o'clock in the morning, and then go up then. So it's gonna be a long day.
Dedication.
I'm not going. I'm not going. I said on the previous time I was on, I said we needed 50 points before Norwich, and we haven't got them. And there was no way I could have coped with stood there if City needed something on it in the last day. So no, I won't be there. But I have total and utter respect to the 1,000 who followed. It's probably the same 1,000 that have been week in, week out. You know, on some of these really long trips, especially in the last few months. Total respect to all of them.
Thank you, Mark. Self-indulgently, I would say that I go to the last game of the season every season. The last time I missed the last game of the season, aside from COVID, was home to Luton in 1982, which was a night game, and I was in London at the time, so I couldn't go there. So every season, apart from the COVID season, I've been to the last game of the season. So whatever the position, I'll go to Norwich on Saturday.
I tell you something as well, boys. Looking at the championship table, which I did have up here earlier, but I should have put it back up. I think Preston are in a bit of a wobble. It's amazing how things can change. You know, I think Preston are really shaky looking at the last games, and it's going to be. It looks like Plymouth are probably down with us because of their goal difference. But as regards the final club, it could be anyone. Don't know what you all think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Preston. I don't really want Preston to go down, to be honest, because we never beat Preston. They've always been a bit of a bogey team for us. So I don't want them in the League One. So I mean, Luton going down would be a disaster for them, wouldn't it? I mean, crikey, going from the Premier League down to League One. I mean, that would be shocking for that club, really.
They're showing some great fight, though, Mark. You've got to say, you know, these clubs, you know, your Lutons. I mean, okay, Luton have got some great players in there, but your Portsmouths and even Oxford, they've shown a bit of fight, haven't they? Yeah. You know, to get across the line. You know,
yeah, just so disappointed we're the only team that didn't show it, sadly.
Phil Samuel, evening, Phil. No trust on anyone on the board to make the necessary changes for next season. No apology from anyone on the board. Who's going to be making the decisions pre-season, he says. Any thoughts on that, Dan? Well, who knows?
To be honest with you, I think what scares me the most is I'm really scared that we're going to free fall because, like, you know, Chu's saying, like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But we've heard it all before. Like, it's 3 out of 4 seasons, so we've been in a relegation battle. And eventually, as my mate John says, you're eventually going to fall through that trapdoor. It's just like, if they can't get the fundamentals right on our itinerary year, the 125th anniversary. And what upset me the most, the Oxford game, the day after, that was the game we won against the FA Cup, when we won the FA Cup. And Cardiff City didn't put anything out about it. It's just like loads of things that just needs to get right, because we are a big club, and I honestly think we are a sleeping giant. But it just really scares me at the moment, because if we do not, like last year when we waited for Era Bullet, we didn't know if he was going to be the manager or not. And he said, when he was out in Turkey on the news channels that he goes on, he was saying that they didn't give him time to prep everything. So you don't know, do you?
That's exactly that. Steve, you're Mr. Optimism on the show generally. Do you reckon we can bounce straight back?
We can, but a lot of things have got to happen that would be very surprising if they happened. I say the question you just asked Daniel there about what's going to happen in the pre-season. We need everything in place quickly now, as we done previously. We got things in place. Going back to 82-3, we had a half decent team. We went down in 82, and we kept most of them. Could you imagine the Bennett brothers, so tremendous loyalty in staying with us that season, and we came bouncing straight back, and that's one of my favourite seasons of all time at 82-3. We've got to get everything in place. I don't want to have to wait until we go down another league until we have another reset, as we did in the mid 80s when we went down the two relegations under Alan Durban. We then did a reset then, because of course we had Durban when we went down. And I remember anybody at Brentford 1985, I think it must have been sort of November 85, there was a pitch invasion at the start of the second half with a load of fans ran on the pitch and sat down the edge of the penalty area shouting Durban out. They didn't get Durban out till after the end of the season.
Yeah, good point. Listen, we were told several years back, Mark, that there was a plan. Quite clearly there wasn't. Here's a quote from Mr. Vincent Tan, 2023, so 2 years ago. I hear talk that we have no plan. Do you honestly think that I would put so much of my money in if I had no plan? Do you think we are idiots? Feel free to chip in, Mark.
Yeah, well, there was not a plan. There was not a plan. We've been through 3 managers, so it might have been a plan, but the plan didn't work. But I don't know what that plan was, And let's face it, where we are, we're now managerless, right? Because Aaron Ramsey, I don't think he wants the job. He's gonna concentrate on getting himself fit again. He obviously wants to play football again. I don't necessarily think that should be with us, but because I don't think League One is where perhaps he even sees himself. But no, I think Steve and Daniel are spot on. We have to get. I want to see a manager before the end of May, because we've not played this level for 22 years. And I don't think there's anybody that's associated with the club other than the fans that are used to this division. And somebody's got to make a decision over who are we going to keep, who has got clauses where they want other clubs, because their agents will be on the phone already, touting round to say, Robinson won't want to play League One, etc. I want to keep him, but we've got to be realistic. We need somebody that's going to make that decision, because Chew doesn't know how to do it. Dalman doesn't know how to do it. And what's the point in letting Aaron Ramsey do it if he's not going to be the manager? And I don't think he's going to be the manager. So we need to find a reliable, knowledgeable manager for League One that's used to League One football that can get us out of this mess.
Just to take you back quickly, great comment there, Mark, to Brentford 85, Steve. Nigel's on. He says the fan who sat in the centre circle at Brentford and then screwed his false leg so he couldn't be dragged off was the highlight of my season. Well, at least we can have a laugh about that.
I remember the lad, because he was on crutches, obviously, with his lower leg amputee. And I remember seeing him vault the advertising hoarding at the front of the stand as well to get on the pitch. And he sort of vaulted onto the pitch and then sat down on it. Yeah, that was the memory. I think we were 3-0 down after 15 minutes that day.
Fab. Talking to players out of contracts, I jotted these down. These are the boys out of contracts in the summer. Gutas, El Ghazi, Meite, Joe Rawls, Aaron Ramsey, Jamilu Collins, Andy Rinomota. Out of those, Dan, would you like to keep any off the top of your head?
I think Andy, to be honest, so he's my number one, to be honest. I think Ralls as well, because you can tell he absolutely loves this club, and he's been through the highs and the lows with the club, and you could see when he was, I think it was Plymouth Argyle, even though he was injured, he was on the pitch with the players, watching them training that, and that's what you want. You want leadership, and I think that's what's lacked with the season, because I think like they've been playing players the wrong positions, but no, I think them two I would keep, to be honest with you.
Some of the boys have been a major disappointment, though, Steve, haven't they? I'll just signal one: El Ghazi for me. I mean, I don't know what you, Steve. I don't know what your thoughts are about.
Yeah, I'd agree entirely. In his defence and playing devil's advocate again, he hadn't played football since October the previous year, having been having his contract and his dispute with Mainz after he stopped playing there. He's undoubtedly been a quality player, but yeah, as I say, a disappointment. The person being controversial, I'd like to raise the question as to whether Mate might be able to do a job for us in League One, because he's always put a shift in, got a hard time off some fans, but he always gives it a lot. I think I'd agree with Daniel about keeping Rinomota as well. He could do a job for us there. Beyond that, we need players who are going to graft. I mean, there might be players who might be good in the Championship, but I think we need some proven League One players as well to get us out of that division now.
It'll be interesting to see which way the wind blows there, Mark. I don't know what your thoughts are on that little list there, but
yeah, Rinomoto's got to be signed up. And again, I think Steve mentioned it a bit before. We even sent him out on loan because we didn't know what to do with him, and he comes back and wins play. Well, most of the fans think he should have been Player of the Year. So again, he definitely. And I think what saves Joe Rawls, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, is that if we were in the Championship, I don't think Joe Rawls gets a contract, but I think he probably does at League One. You know, and Aaron Ramsey, if we can find a way. Do we sacrifice a position and find a way of pay as you go? Or, you know, I don't know. He just can't stay fit, can he? And he might be better off in the stands than he is on the field. That sounds terrible, I know, but he obviously doesn't want his career to finish. But we can't afford to have him sat around the dressing room injured for what is probably 70% of the season. Yeah.
Do any of us think that the coaching staff, you know, the likes of Gunter and the other chap he's brought in, name escapes me, Nigel will tell me, no doubt, on the chap they brought in from the Wales coaching staff. Do we think that there could be involvement with those boys next year in some sort of capacity? Dan, do you think, you know, perhaps there may have been discussions behind the scenes to keep a few of those on?
Yeah, I think, you know, with the last two games, because you got to think when a coach goes up to the first team, so on, and then the under 18s take over the under 21s. But I think they must have had a chat about like, right, okay, the last final two games, if this doesn't go to plan, have we still got a job afterwards? But I'm not too sure. I don't really know what to say on that one, to be honest with you. Sorry.
No sitting on the fence. Come on. No, I take your point. It just occurred to me that perhaps may have been some discussions behind the scenes to get them to come to the club in the first place with a carrot of maybe contracts for next season. What do you think on that, Steve?
Well, yes, I think we got it. Goes back to having a plan, and we don't know what the plan is. I think I said last time I was on here, I think the only real manager that gave me hope in recent seasons when we brought Lamucci in, who demonstrably done things elsewhere, but we don't know the reasons for it. But he then didn't get the contract. But it seems to me that from when we came up in 2003, we did have a bit of a plan, and we seemed to move forward. First of all, Lenny Lawrence had us the first season or two when we came up. He took us as far as he could. Then Dave Jones came in. We played some of the best football that we've played in the time I've been following Cardiff City, but we couldn't quite get over the line. And then, of course, Malky came in. Malky started off, I think, with 7 or 8 players that season. And then he got us the League Cup final where we narrowly lost to Liverpool, of course. And then the following season after that, we got promoted. After that, that's when we seem to have fallen down. Solskjaer, first of all, Russell Slade, who we all thought badly of, but then Sean Morrison said he steadied the ship and there wouldn't have been the success we had after that. We had the blip of Warnock getting us back up again, which I think we were on a downward spiral, but then Warnock somehow managed to turn it round and got us a season back up in the Premier League. Since then, we don't know what we're doing. But yeah, you go back to your question, Steve. Yeah, there may be a promise of something, but we don't know what it is, and we don't know what the longer term plan is. It seems like, you know, we've got a plan for Norwich game possibly, but beyond that, we don't know what's happening.
which is absolutely crazy, isn't it? If you think about it, if a new manager is coming in, then if you are a manager and you're looking at Cardiff City, and I'll come on to, well, let's mention it now, capital city of Wales, great stadium, home to Welsh football, great fan base, brilliant catchment area. It's got an airport, shops, training facilities are brilliant, academy, all in place now. We've got some great youngsters coming through. So there are pluses to a new manager taking the reins at Cardiff City. And we all know that the potential's there as well. The question is, if a new manager decides to come, is he going to want to bring his own coaching staff in? And we're back then to square one, Steve, as to what the plan is from the hierarchy, aren't we?
Yes, most definitely, and it seems to be the same year after year. I've got to agree with you, Mark. There, we need a plan in by the end of May, when players are starting to look. Players who are out of contract are starting to look elsewhere. Who's going to look at Cardiff City at the moment when they don't know what's going on? We need to get things in place. It's going to be too late to start looking at things July, August, September. We need to do something now. We need to know what that plan is.
And even worse, Steve, they're going to. There may well be players that say, "Well, there's no one here. I'm just going to make my own decisions." No, nobody's going to tell me if they want me or not, because there's no one here to do that. So I'm sure they'll turn up, I guess, for Norwich, but after that, it's going to be a free for all. Who's going to keep any of them? The list is clear who's going to go, and we don't know. We don't know how many of those players have got release clauses that are just waiting to be triggered. And if clubs trigger them, then they're going to be financial decisions. I've already read comments, will somebody come in and snap up Colwell? Well, there'll be a few. NG maybe. I think he's had a poor season, but what was really interesting, coming back to the coaching side, was Ramsey and Pearce being moved to one side. I really couldn't quite work that out. That was very un-Cardiff City of us to not give it to one of those. It almost felt to me like Ramsey had said, well, if I'm going to do it, I'll do it with the people I want to work with.
I think you're right there, Mark. And that's why I alluded to just a second ago, whether some discussions had gone on behind the scenes. And look, yes, I'll take the reins for 3 games as long as I can bring these boys in. And whether they've discussed, if we go down, then we'll keep you on in some capacity, but we'll also keep the coaching staff on as well, and look to bring another manager in. It just makes you wonder whether that's been discussed, Dan. Possible?
Never know with Bellamy though, because he said he'd spoken to Bellamy, so Bellamy might have given him that input, But no, I think what Chu said, it starts tomorrow. It really needs to start today, It's, we can't be waiting around like we did last year, because Dalman was saying that we were going to push playoffs or be second, and look at us now, relegated. So we need to take this serious, especially it being the 125th anniversary. It was a joke, and it upsets a lot of people because, we are the capital club and we need to start acting like the capital club,
Absolutely, Dan. Yeah. Phil Samuel, a new manager, boys, is needed within a few weeks to start the planning. But let's not forget, Mark, that it's Mr. Tan's money that keeps the club afloat at the moment. And is there a new messiah out there waiting in the wings to buy Cardiff City, or are we solely reliant on Vincent Tan?
I think we're reliant on Vincent Tan. I think that and his asset is diminishing in value by the season. We all know that the Salah situation, and I think that's pivotal in the demise of Cardiff City since that fateful January day. The club never recovered from that, and Vincent Tan hasn't recovered financially from it, and I think he's still here because he wants to try. But I don't believe there's another person out there that could shoulder. It would be nice if Vincent Tan could encourage somebody to come alongside with him, and try and share some of that financial burden, because I know we all heard we want Vincent Tan out, but the reality is Cardiff City folds without his money. And the issue is the mismanagement of the money, not the money itself. And I think Glenn from the Wales Online, he made a really good point in trying to say, look, you have pumped a lot of money into this club, but it's been allowed to be spent really, really badly. And you've got to stop making these same mistakes. And so
it's like, I was going to say, Mark, it's like a bit of a sieve, isn't it? You know, the money that he's pumped in and the money we've wasted on managers, and still paying managers, managers still in contracts, and some of the players.
Yeah, you look at the youth setup. You know, I don't want to be overly critical, but we've only ever sold on Mark McGuinness, and we bought him. Who else have we sold as a club? If you take Brentford as a model, and now they seem to be able to churn out players. Why can't Cardiff City create good quality players that can compete at championship level? Because we quite frankly sit in bottom of the league. We haven't been able to create young players for years and years to come in and do a good job for the hometown club. We simply haven't done it. And how much money is that costing us year on year to not every player that we see as potential, when they get released, they end up going to a lower level club, League One, League Two. Some drop out or completely. Ruben hasn't, you know, since he had that Wales appearance in the World Cup, he hasn't done. He can't consistently hold down a place. Kean Ashford is trying. Isaac Davis, bad injury, but then you're struggling, aren't you? There's not one of them is saying they've taken Cardiff City by the scruff of the neck and say, this is my club, I'm going to drive it forward. We just haven't done it.
Do we think, though, that the management haven't placed enough trust in our younger players to develop them and bring them through? I'm just thinking back, you know, for the Rizza, Mark Hudson, Neil Harris. Should we have been blooding more youngsters in the side and sticking with them rather than bringing in loan players, Steve? What are your thoughts on the youngsters? Because we got some cracking youngsters coming through, let's be honest.
We have, but from the manager's point of view, it's been, there have been several managers who haven't fancied our players for whatever reason, fancied our young players for whatever reason. They've not put them in. It's not just Rizza. It's not just the managers that came before him. They've not wanted to do that. Perhaps they're all far too risk averse. Perhaps they don't want to take the chance when there's a chance staying up. For example, what Rizza said about Simic, who we beat off competition from Sunderland to sign, has scored in the Champions League, yet hasn't been able to get a look in. He was on the bench at Sheffield United. I remember seeing him warm up thinking, oh, who's that? Oh, that's Simic. I'd never seen him before. He never got on, of course. But, you know, perhaps taking a chance on him. What would have been the problem in taking a chance on Simic? Just, I don't understand it, Steve. I can't offer a solution, sorry.
It's a good point, that is. Sean Harrison has got a good one as well. The story of our season, boys, not taking chances. And going back to what you said there, Steve, you know, why don't we give someone like Simic a chance, Dan? I mean, you've been going to away games. We haven't been taking our chances, so we're desperately trying to find a goal scorer from somewhere. We got Salek, who's thankfully banged a few in. Robinson's done okay in fits and starts, but we're still looking for that elusive player to constantly lock the ball in the net. What's going wrong, Dan?
I think Rizza, because in the position he was in, I don't think he wanted it to get any worse than it was. But you look him playing in the under-21, I think it was like 4 goals he scored or something like that. You know, if you know that, I think that game the weekend, I think Simic would have come on and scored a goal, but we would never know. But I feel like, you know, with the last game now, put him on, see him if he's any good. You know, what have we got to lose now? There's nothing in it. But you don't know. I just honestly don't know what we're thinking most of the time, to be honest, mate.
Quite a few shouts to play Mete and Salek from the start on Saturday from the boys tonight. And Phil's back on again. He says, boys, I emailed Dalman and Chew after the Stoke game, which was several weeks ago. I've had a season ticket for 50 consecutive years, 5-0. I've not even received a reply or an acknowledgement receipt of my email, which, quite frankly, Mark, is absolutely shocking.
Terrible customer manager. We're customers to a business. To absolutely tight. They're just treating us with contempt. You know, there's people who want to protest, people that don't want to protest. You know, do we keep turning up and shelling out our money on season tickets? Do we stop buying shirts? What do we do to make them show that we're important to them? But it's awful. That is really, it saddens me. It really does that people put 50 years in and they're not even worthy of a quick response. It's terrible.
Any other business, Mark, wouldn't have any customers. So they're very lucky that the fans of Cardiff City are loyal, Steve, as we always have been, and will, as you said earlier, continue to buy tickets, because any other business, you think in the entertainment industry, it'd fall down like a pack of cards, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, when it's not like any other business, is it? It's not like I'm going to say, I'm not going to support Cardiff City anymore. I'm going to go and watch Nottingham Forest, Derby County, Leicester City, or whoever. I'm just not going to do that because Cardiff City is in my blood. Going back to when we were in the 4th division, there was still a hardcore of us, of 150, 200 of us going away every week. Everybody knew everybody. Now I go away. I know a few people still, but I know far fewer people than I did back in the day. Whatever happens, we'll still be there. We don't support the regime. We don't even support the players as such. We support Cardiff City because it's our team.
I think I used the analogy before. Can you imagine going to the same restaurant every Saturday night, and every Saturday night the food they served up was rubbish, right? Yeah. And you say, do you know what? I'm going back next Saturday. I'm going to keep trying. The chef will get it right in a minute. That's what we're doing. We're you know, we need testing. Some of us.
Let's face it. Next season.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't put councillors on the bus yet, to be honest, this season.
Yeah, you're right there. So how much realistically now that we've gone down to League One, we read, earlier in the season, Tan wanted 200 million for the club. How much realistically do we think Cardiff City's worth? Because I don't think it's worth 200 million now, Dan. And I know you've been standing on the on some of the demos and stuff, and like Mark said earlier, the fan base unfortunately seems to be split right down the middle there.
Where you look at it, I think everyone's entitled to an opinion. I know some people disagree, but with me, if you said something I disagree, I respect it, because at the end of the day, if you put in £1, £10, any money into this club, you've got an opinion. And what's very sad to see what you mentioned about that guy sending a letter. Those are the people that build this club who are going to be there forever. And I was speaking to a guy on the weekend, sitting in the stand, and he said he's there with his son, but his son rather be on there looking at roadblocks than watching the team. And I think it's sad to see, because you've got to look at the future generation. We need them to be coming. And you're talking about customer satisfaction. They're supposed to be these amazing business people, but they're not given any customer services. It's very sad to see.
Absolutely spot on. And I looked at some of your interviews on the weekend, Dan, and when you're interviewing the youngsters, especially, I mean, I go back to my dad took me down Cardiff City, would have been 1966, something like that. I first started going, and for me, it was the thrill and excitement of seeing balls flying in the net and seeing my team actually win a game. And I think a lot of the enjoyment, especially home this season, has been eroded, Steve, because we're simply, as Nigel says there, the problem, boys, is we don't actually make chances rather than take them. A lot of the enjoyment watching, I mean, as much as we enjoy going down to the stadium and watching the games, we're not creating chances. We're not getting people out of their seats, are we?
No, not especially. I feel that the atmosphere has not been that good at home games, leaving the Bristol, the Jacks game to one side. And of course, we did one of our amazing comebacks against Norwich, of course, when we scored the 2 goals to win 2-1 in November. And the last couple of games have been pretty good. But the atmosphere away matches has been quite good still, because you tend to get the people who are going to get behind the team. On Saturday, again, as Daniel says, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Most people were still clapping the players. There were some who were throwing obscenities and gesturing at the players. I think my view is that whatever happens, you clap your team off at the end. I've had people in my face when I've dared to clap the team off the pitch on occasions because I always do it. We always clap the team off the pitch. Doesn't matter what the result is. It's just something that we should do.
Good point. And a great point by Reese. I don't know if you saw that on the screen just now, Bart. And we'll throw this out to the people watching as well tonight. Do Cardiff City stay up with Errol Bullitt in charge? In other words, if we hung on to Mr. Bullitt, would we still be in the Championship, Mark?
No, I don't think so. He had 7 or 8 matches. What was it? 1 point, and that was Swansea away. No, I generally, I just don't think this squad's good enough. We haven't been good enough. I think 12 flattered us last season, gave us a false sense of hope that things were better, but there were some really poor performances. I know it was last game of season, but we conceded 5 away at a relegated Rotherham last game of the season, and we started this season in exactly the same way. So no, I don't think Bullitt was the answer. Disappointingly, because I thought actually he might, but again, I think it was mentioned briefly before that he wasn't really given the job with any much confidence, was he? We were hanging around. Is he getting it? Isn't he getting it? And I really would have liked to have him to have come brought a little bit of that Turkish, a few other Turkish contacts coming in, and a real horrible striker, that would be really nasty, but it never happened, did it? He got Gutas and Siopis, and Siopis went sadly halfway through this season, and Gutas is definitely not signing a new contract. He's not sticking around for League One, and it'll all be gone. So no, I don't think we would have stayed up. We're bottom of the league fundamentally because the squad isn't good enough.
We've got to wrap it up, guys. And thank you ever so much for coming on tonight. Are we going to go out with a flourish on Saturday, Dan? Are we going to win away at Norwich?
I just hope they put a shift in for the fans who travel week in, week out. I think we deserve it more, to be honest. I think if they show that commitment on the last day and say, look, all right, we're down, but we're going to give it 120%, that's good enough for me. And then we can just go to next season and hope, fingers crossed, we'll be back up.
Fingers crossed. Score prediction, Steve, for the Norwich game. Are we going to do the Canaries?
2-1 to Cardiff City.
Mr. Optimism strikes again. What do you reckon, Mark?
I keep reading somewhere that somebody keeps predicting we're gonna wallop somebody, so I'm going to go 4-0 City.
Well, on that thought, I think we are taking one step back, but hopefully 2 steps forward to the Premier League. Thank you, boys. Have a good night. Thanks, lads.
Nice one, lads. Thank